Hey guys, it's Matt here, and in this video we're going to be doing two things. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is I will be announcing that this week we're doing a PS1 Mini Week event on the channel. So what does that even mean? Well, tomorrow we're actually going to be having a review of the PS1, the PlayStation 1 Mini. Then, the next day, we're doing an unboxing of the PS1 Mini. And then, the next day, we are doing the first of two TG tutorials videos. So the first video will be about how you can actually record PS1 Mini footage using your Elgato. And then on the next day, we'll be doing our second TG tutorials video, where I will be showing you how you can record PS1 Mini footage through your Roxio Game Capture HD Pro. Now, I could have just said all that and then ended this video, but as you can tell from the title of the video and from the thumbnail, that's not the only thing that I wanted to do. So, I was tinkering around with the PS1 Mini, not internally because I don't know how any of that works. Might even be doing a breakdown as well in the near future. Tell me if you guys want me to do that down below. But yeah, I have no idea how the internals of things like this work. I could totally do breakdowns, but I wouldn't really know what is what. So, I haven't modded this, I haven't hacked this in any way possible, but I found out that different controllers can work on the PS1 Mini. Sort of. So, I have a few different controllers today, and we're going to see just how well they can and cannot work on the PS1 Mini. So, we have a PlayStation 1 controller, a PlayStation 2 controller, we also have a Philips PC controller that is USB based, and a Super Nintendo controller. Now, I know what you guys are telling me. You guys are saying, Matt, none of those work. Potentially, maybe the USB one, but either way, Matt, you're an idiot. And I understand why you might be thinking that, although I don't really like the language that you've used to describe me. But I understand why you might actually think that. But here's the thing. We can't just plug in the controller, obviously. So that's not what we're going to do here. We're going to use a few things that I have in my collection to actually see if these things work and to what varying degree they do work. So let's jump to some footage of that right now. Alright guys, so first things first, let's turn this thing on. And as you can tell, I am using a video camera to record this, no video game capture cards. I want to show you guys that this is 100% legit and that there's no trickery, tomfoolery, or anything like that. So as you can see, I have the PS1 controller that came with this mini console itself, and as you can tell, it's working just fine. So directional buttons are working, everything's doing okay, and as you can see, going off without a hitch. Now, as soon as you unplug the controller, a message will pop up that says can't recognize the controller, reconnect the controller to controller port 1. And at this point, I'll be connecting the device that allows me to use PS1 controllers on the PC. And as you can see, I'm connecting the PS1 controller to the device right now. Sadly though, as you can tell, the X button is not working. In fact, none of the buttons are working, so I can't get out of this pop-up screen. Although something interesting to note, the analog button works and lights up, so it does register the controller as a PS1 controller. But I didn't stop there, so I turned the console off, turned it back on, and I was able to bypass the pop-up message that didn't allow me to use other controllers. But as you can tell, sadly these buttons don't work, but the directional buttons do work. Yes, they actually work, so it understands that it is a controller, up, down, left, and right. But sadly the rest of it isn't mapped, although the analog works as well. So not only do the directional buttons work, but the analog buttons work. And yes, I know that during normal gameplay this is meaningless, but the fact that it actually registers a controller natively is very interesting. Now let's check out the PS2 controller and see if we have any luck here. So let me go on and just plug this thing right in. And again, the directional buttons work just fine. And I didn't even get that pop-up message because technically the blue device is still plugged in. But sadly, as you can tell, none of the other buttons are actually mapped to work, so yeah, it's still just the directional buttons, but the analog as well, which again is still pretty interesting. So let's check out this Philips PC controller, which by the way is also extendable, and then you can actually push this button over here that says recoil, and look at that, just comes right back to it. So after turning the console on, you can see that not only is that analog red button lit up, but also the blue Philips button, and the directional buttons actually work here too, along with the analog stick. So this is just so strange. But again, none of the buttons actually work. So I'm wondering if these controllers are set up in a similar way to the PS1 Mini's controller, that they all just read just fine and dandy, at least the directional buttons. And now let's check out the Super Nintendo controller, which is definitely not going to work. But either way, I do have it plugged in, so let's see what we can do. So the system is on, as you can tell, and let's see if any of the buttons work. I have a feeling that they won't, but okay. So the directional buttons work. That's a thing. Up, down, left, and right. Okay. But sadly, none of the buttons work. None of the other buttons work. Like I've been saying over and over and over again, clearly for some reason the directional buttons, the directional pad in general does work just fine, but none of the other buttons do. So this was a pretty strange experiment, and yeah, let's jump back to me in front of the shelf. Yeah, so as you guys can tell, like I said, they sort of work, and some just don't work entirely. Now, I know what you guys might be thinking. You might be thinking, Matt, but this is a huge nothing burger. This feels like a waste of my time. Why do this? And the reason why I want to do this is because I wanted to just talk about the fact that perhaps some of these controllers could be mapped to work on a PS1 Mini if some hackers get together, some modders get together and do their thing and perhaps actually take a crack at this. We can actually end up being able to play PS1 games, specifically on the PS1 Mini, of course, with PS1 controllers or a multitude of different controllers, so long as they are USB based or there's some kind of converter to convert them to USB. I mean, you know, if you guys have seen the channel before, then you know that I've actually done reviews of different products by either Hyperkin or Retrobit, and those allow you to be able to play use Super Nintendo controllers or NES controllers on your NES Classic Edition or your SNES Classic Edition. But in this case, we don't have to have some kind of weird tiny converter to convert it into a weird format like the NES or the SNES or even technically the Wii and the Wii U. No, in this case, all we need is something converted to USB and potentially map the controller to work. And I think that's really cool. So I just really want to show you guys that, just to kind of put that out there, maybe, you know, get some creative juices flowing and some people out there who thought, yeah, PS1 Mini, whatever, who really cares? Now, maybe a little bit of tinkering, things like that. So either way, guys, thank you all so much. Love you all. Take care and tune in next time, specifically this whole week, for our PS1 Mini week. So, alright guys, thank you all so much. Love you all. Take care and see ya.